articulated as identifiable objectives from the people and the places in which you choose to intervene. But that's a very, very difficult thing to do in the context of today's environment development world, or at least organized environment development world. So there's no easy answer to your question, because if you take that back to IUCN, what do you get? This is a crisis. We don't have time for that. We need to act right away. You know, these organizations lack the capacity for the degree of reflection that's needed to actually implement effective projects. And I could have talked about another project that was wholly imagined into being. A project funded by GEF, implemented by IUCN and UNEP, that was created to satisfy the objectives of the GEF funding priority. They imagined a project into being that had no basis in empirical reality, none whatsoever, and resulted in intense social fragmentation within the communities in which they intervened. That's the sort of world in which institutionalized and organized conservation practice exists. It needs to be pushed back against, but the only way to push back, is from the question that you just asked in many ways. And how do you get to that level? Sorry, that's too much time.
Waking up here, Ian asked that before, and then Liz and Harry.
I'm going to give a slightly different answer, and that is that IUCN is responsible for many conservation policies. Those policies impact food systems. So in Brazil, in that case, a park was put in, so that community lives on the coast, and at the time that park was put in, the community was putting their efforts into fishing. And they were denied access to land resources. They could no longer do shipping cultivation. They couldn't open up new areas for shipping cultivation. They are not allowed to hunt. And that food system is a system that links forest, coast, and sea. And so if we don't look at landscape level, and we go in at particular points in time, and people don't have the access and the rights over all the pieces of the system that allow them to make choices over time, it's less resilient. And those are sort of big global factors, but in terms of conservation policy, those are some very clear, simple things. So what you did effectively is you pushed them into the shipping cultivation, into a narrow band of land, you shorten rotation times, you cause land degradation, and that whole thing around northern now planting is gone. So that is now a less resilient system because of the protected area. It's caused land degradation in a narrow band of land. And now the fish markets are collapsing, over which they have no control. These are, the mobile. So, like those, and then you allow a gated community to go in where you can no longer access the blue mark. So, I mean, these are landscape level things that have to be thought through. So communities, in my experience, are very good at it. They can hunt and fish, and they can adapt and do all sorts of things. So it's not their knowledge, or it's just they're constantly impinged upon and lose the abilities to make choices and adapt. So to me, that's where I sort of focus and sort of then intersect with the work of Harry, because those are the issues, the key issues. It's not, now then we can get to production, right, if there's a production issue. But until that's settled, it's a very difficult, so I think that's sort of where I see those intersections. That was the next one.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, I think thinking in Uganda and other places in Africa, I think the first thing to realize is how much communities have been undermined and how much, as you were saying, communities have been imposed upon by one agenda project after another. So for me, some of the principles would be recognizing the damage the communities are really suffering and the pressures they're under, recognizing that communities have the capacity to take control of processes, that we work with processes and not projects. This is about communities' lives, so these need to be long-term commitments to processes that are led by the communities and that we as outsiders accompany. This is notwithstanding all that we've said about the difficult context that you're in, but in terms of solutions, I mean, these are the kind of principles that many people work with. The other, of course, that you've heard is holistic. These are holistic systems of thinking, of relationships, of ecosystems, and that's a huge transformation for those of us educated in the Western industrial world. And also, I think what's really important is that those of us engaging with communities need to enter a long-term relationship where we change rather than us coming in with solutions, to actually be accompanying communities in an unfolding process which changes conditions on the ground but also changes us as the people who engage with the communities. So these are some quite radical change in thinking that I think those of us who are working with communities need to understand our need for our own transformation and our own consciousness of what baggage do we bring into communities, what kind of thinking are we imposing, how do we really get to a place of deeply respecting that these communities most of us have been talking about and the ones who we're working with in Uganda, they've been living in resilient systems for thousands of years. It's the impact of this very system that's destroyed those. How do we revive those and put ourselves as so-called educated people into a humility, an attitude of humility and respect?
And I'm going to pick up on these points so far before I come back to my friend. I think that all the communities with whom we work, they stress this issue of responsibility, community responsibility to land. And where rights come into it is to defend that. It's almost like we talk about affirming the right to responsibility in this context. And within that, I think it's very interesting, again, this kind of re-engineering of the way people view quote-unquote development has to be supporting the local systems. But then the question is, what kind of legal frameworks can be developed to create those kind of positive dynamics to support communities, to speak everything that Lou spoke to was about the strength of the local system. Everything I spoke to was how laws so often don't support those local systems. How can that be changed?
Maybe to add a very small thing about law, actually. Also to recognize that communities have their own laws that have guided them for millennia, and the most important thing at the moment is also to give space to those laws and how they can actually be integrated into the governance of those communities by not having them recognize the conventional laws, but the conventional laws recognizing that communities have their own laws and they have space, and we need to look at how we pull together all the activities or all the appendages of that community that can work towards their resilience. That's why we talk about a holistic approach rather than a disintegrated or psycho-pronged approach.
The gentleman from Honduras, I think that's your name, maybe you could say it again. Yeah, Osvaldo Munilla. Yeah. We have probably, it's already 1300 hours. I think the translators will tolerate 1 minute, 2 minute maximum, so please be brief so that we can respond.
Entonces, solamente para agregar a lo que se ha dicho, que me parece muy bien, estoy muy de acuerdo con lo que puso la señora, la colega, para agregar, no es tanto de accesar al recurso, porque el acceso lo ha tenido la gente, es más bien de recuperar ese acceso que se le ha quitado a la gente.
I'm sorry, we are going to have to close. I made an agreement with the translators that we would be out of this room at 1300 hours. I just want to thank all of you for your contributions. I hope that the conversation can go on after when we leave this room. Perhaps we could show our thanks to the presenters and all the food for thought. I wish you all a very good day. Bye-bye.
저희 모르겠습니다. 티켓이 나오나? 저희 좀. 안녕하세요. 이름 적고 받는 거라서.
No, guys, that was really well done. Thank you so much. I saw you reading. I was like, Jesus. I've seen it all my
And thank you to the translators.
Oh, I saw that. I didn't really say that. I read that after. I did. Well, we're told we have to
But it's not that point. It's not that point. So it's supposed to happen I think it's I'm there for it too, so don't worry. That's So we are supposed to be there? Here? Yeah. Okay. Yes, there. With this computer?
Yeah.
Okay, can we check?
Use PowerPoint or what?
Do you have?
PPT?
No, Word. But I have it here.
How you doing? Okay. Question on this. Your work,
Yes.
in South Africa.
No,
no, it's all.
Nice to meet you.
Another Aaron, I met no, I can't live in there. All summer I called him Aaron. And then in summer he gave me his email. Aaron.
It's a little bit of a long story. I'm here doing media work for a documentary that various things.
This one, right?
Has to do with a particular agrarian environmental conflict in Chiapas, Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
It's also, we're also covering a little bit of the evolution of the conservation.
The conservation goal.
Yeah.
I don't know, so he should know it, huh? I know, I received and it was submitted, I think, in Spanish. But we could check. I have also the English and French versions, but I think it's in Spanish as well.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But anyways, they have translated, right?
Thank you.
No?
Yeah. To me,
I
it's
don't really know.
the media component.
I'm supposed to do it in Spanish.
The media component
Because
is
you need to
a kind of
track it
benefit
at the language where which in Spanish, yeah. I think it has been submitted in Spanish. But we I hope he knows. Where is he? Who is he? I haven't met them. Do you know him?